Hello.
Hello.
Do you want to get started or
Huh?
are you started already?
Yeah.
Recording.
We're recording. Yes. Do we do this? This is just a committee meeting. Do we do it live on?
Yeah, we can do it.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. We do
Yeah,
this one.
we do it Tuesday, but we do live.
Right.
Okay, you're all set.
Okay. Now, when we want to go into executive session, we
I'm gonna shut down the
shut off the tube.
shut off the YouTube and shut off the record.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you want to shut off the recording or not.
Yeah. I think down here I can end.
Yeah, you can end the recording.
What does it say here? Stop recording.
Yeah.
So I would go up here, stop live stream,
Yeah,
and then
and then stop the recording.
okay,
That way, when I upload the video to YouTube,
right.
it won't show your executive session.
All right. Oh, my eyes, it's the screen's blurry or my eyes are blurry. Probably a little bit of both.
My glasses are usually dirty.
Oh, it's an endless. I wonder if David will call in, say he didn't get the.
He texted or emailed me yesterday morning and said he didn't get the link. I'm like, it hasn't been done yet.
We're live right now. So. Hi, Nick. Bob's on. Paul, you there?
Hey. Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Nick, you're there, right? And slowly coming on.
All right, can you hear me now?
Vern, we got you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Tim Richardson. Oh, he's connecting the audio. Okay.
Did you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. How come T. Richardson doesn't have a camera on? I want to see his face.
I wish you could see my face too, Paul. My camera is on its way to my office.
I can't wait to see the awesome face that I'm making on the thumbnail for the YouTube video this week.
All right, what we got?
Hopefully it's not me this time.
I'm kind of hoping it is, actually. No offense.
Yeah.
I'll take anybody but me. Maybe a little Bob Ring face, like whatever. Super awkward pose. What?
I said I just got done running, so I look a little flush.
Got done running?
Oh, you've been running outside?
Oh. Cool. Then you came in and you were running in your button down?
Using a beef and barrel beef omelet sandwich. How many calories do you think are in that? 500, 600?
700.
Yeah.
No, I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know. Everything.
Oh, it probably is. Anything from a restaurant around that is about 700. That's just for the sandwich.
Without size.
Depressing is if you eat at Applebee's and you look at the menu there, they put all the calories on everything, and it's just like, what am I even doing here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Like the Mexican burgers, like 1,700 calories.
Oh yeah, berries, man. I don't know how they get that many calories into something that small. One of those pints you can make disappear in 10 minutes. 1,200 calories, nothing.
It's all that butter and grease they use.
No doubt.
Salt.
3765703.
Are you guys able to hear me?
What?
Oh, you can hear me. Okay, I pushed my headset button and it hung up my T. Richardson. You think with all these Zoom meetings, I would have been eventually caught up on this.
Which one? Oh, you're 3765703.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, Bill, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, my little thing on the bottom hasn't come up, so I just wanted to make sure.
Okay. What's the commercial? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now? There's all kinds of fun commercials.
Yeah. Just waiting for a few more to connect.
Yeah, I came up with an idea. Well, I didn't come up with one, but I have an idea for how we can do the meeting of the whole when we do the pledge. I went and watched the last 4 weeks of Buffalo's and what their process is. So I figured I'd somewhere along the line, I like to mention it to everyone when everyone's on instead of repeating. Easy solution instead of us all looking like kindergarten kids repeating the same thing and to hear the echo.
I know. It's like everyone start together.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's whatever works, whatever you think. I'm think that's a good idea.
Okay.
At some point tonight or next week, we have to talk about the reorganizational meeting on January 4th, on how we want to do it.
Okay.
Is Zoom an option? Like, it probably should be, right?
Yeah, Zoom's an option, or I think, and one of the other suggestions is to just have the aldermen and department heads and that come to the chambers, hold it virtually or live stream it with no guest here or like that. And Nick would be there as the judge to swear in the 3 new aldermen. So that's just a couple of options there.
Okay.
Well, I dodged the bullet. There it is, Bill. It's your turn this week.
Where is that, on the live stream?
Yeah,
Or the YouTube?
that's the thumbnail. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm glad I had my hair done. Kevin, you hear us?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Suppose nobody has a Christmas tree in the background.
I have one behind me, but the door's shut, so you can't see it.
I'm one room away, and if I opened my door and did this from that room, all you'd hear is kids screaming the entire meeting, and I would not be able to hear you. Bob, how does it feel to be like a block and a half from your own house?
Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That is the best.
Like, I feel like it's an inconvenience. Like, if you had such a huge house that you had to walk a block and a half to get to where you do your meetings.
I love it. I don't have a yard, but you know what? When for the world, being able to walk to the beef like in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Go to any event, drink, and not have to drive home.
That's true.
Yeah.
You're one of those downtown city residents.
Yeah. About right in.
Very, very convenient.
One of the best places I lived was when I lived above Union News. It was
Really?
location.
It is.
Yeah. It was horrible parking, but it was a good location to live.
Yep.
Not a name
Now,
of it.
there's a couple couples I know that live downtown now, up over stores that they bought, and they love it.
Yeah.
Hi, John.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello, John.
Hey, Bill.
I got your email late today, so if you could call me tomorrow, we could talk about that, okay?
Sounds good, Bill.
We're in arbitration all day today, so.
Okay. Okay.
That sounds like fun.
Right, it's fun, right, Bob?
Sort of like a root canal
So,
without the
so,
Novocaine.
so for 2020's sake, I had my first root canal 2 weeks ago. That was a fun time.
Did it
Yeah.
feel like arbitration?
I've never been in arbitration, so I don't know, but the dentist told me that I have the longest roots he's ever seen. I felt privileged.
Wow.
Yeah, it took forever. He just kept going. Just kept going and going.
It's like, are you sure they're not connected?
Well, when
Sure.
your gums flap as much as Alderman Crawford's do, you really need the roots to hold them in there so you don't lose your teeth in the middle of a speech.
I highly recommend Dave Lamb though. Not many dentists like to do root canals around here. They'll refer you to Jamestown or something, but he's at Valley View Dental on the back Buffalo Road, and he does them. And he's like, yeah, your root is like 30% longer than the normal human. I said, it's like my superpower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, John, we always knew you were special.
Normally long teeth roots.
So does that
Well-
make you extra sensitive?
It does.
This is going to be known as the comedy hour before the meeting. It's on YouTube.
I got one more for Alderman Crawford before we end on that note. John, if you ever share your dental roots with some other woman, you will be in a root canal or arbitration with your wife. So then you will be able to tell us all about it.
You lost me. See,
No?
we were good.
Dental hockey, root canal? I don't know.
We were good until there, and then you lost me.
Okay, all right, we
You got
got
Dave?
David, are you on?
Yeah, can you hear me okay, Bill?
Yes.
Jason
Hi,
is
Dave.
We can see you. Jason Panis.
is called in, perhaps.
Jason, are you there? I got him up on a screen, but I don't. Oh, here we go. Okay. Yeah, Jason, are you, you hear us?
Maybe he's not, he's got himself muted.
You might want to restart, Jason. We can't hear you. I hear something.
Jason's working on his car.
No,
I didn't want Dave to be the only one smoking.
David.
Except we,
Pride.
except we know what Dave is.
Don't tell my wife, doctor.
Jason?
He's in the other room. Dave.
me?
It's our secret.
Hello?
Yeah, Jason.
You guys can hear me now, Bill?
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody here, Jason?
Yeah, plug your seatbelt in.
Hate that thing.
What, seatbelt laws?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're good to go.
We're in.
Good to go.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Everyone fastened in?
I think we have everybody, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any preference? Do you want any preference to the order?
I think you can go first, John.
Okay. I will call to order strategic planning for Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. Let the record show that all aldermen are present. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous committee meeting. Could I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Witt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Unfinished, no unfinished business. We've got some new referrals for consideration. First up, I had asked Bill if he could just give us maybe a brief update on using our Zoom license for alternative city activities. And I know you've got a bigger plan in the works, Bill, but maybe you could just give us a short update.
Yeah, I asked Christian Shawari to give me an update, and I will share this document with you. I'll email it out to everybody tomorrow. But just briefly, the John J. S. Community Center, the equipment has been updated so that they can start to do Zooming. There'll be live streaming Tai Chi, line dancing lessons. There'll be Zooming income tax sessions with clients. The coasters will be Zooming their meetings, and Zoom will be used in a few special events going along. The Bartlett House Olean Point Museum virtual photo albums of Christmas decorations to be completed this week, planning on narrative terms or narrative virtual tours. So things are going well there. The winter programs at St. John's, equipment has been set up this week, and training to begin on using Zoom, planning and using Zoom for homework help or online story reading, trivia activities, movies, arts and craft activities. So we are moving forward, and I appreciate all the suggestions from the council, and things are going well. So more to come on that. So, okay.
Great. Thanks, Bill. Okay, next we have our capital project update. I would assume this would be Director Ring.
Yes.
I'm going to share my screen, so just bear with me for a second. Let me know if this makes sense, if you see the beginning of the presentation. If you want me to zoom in and do more of a slideshow, what does that look like for you all?
Looks good.
That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, so I know most of our projects have wrapped up. We have about 10 capital projects that are current between in construction and in design. This year was a unique year because of COVID. I'm happy to say that our number one goal of keeping these projects under budget has been very successful. Each one of these projects has contingency remaining. We haven't had to ask for any additional funding. Not everything has gone our way, but for the most part, I think you'll see. And I'm going to run you through a lot of the financials. I'm not going to spend too much time on each project, so stop me and ask a question if you'd like. And the best thing is that we've got a really good team working on these projects. Brad Camp, who's the water and sewer superintendent, he's meant to be a project manager. He's helping. I'm starting to transition him into managing these projects, but these 10 I'm leading, trying to lead by example for him, and he's doing a great job. And by next year, we'll have gone through a full round of these projects, and he'll be able to take over. Kerry Kerper consults on a lot of our projects and provides a lot of knowledge on contract management and seeker and things like that. And of course, Bill supports us on these when we meet regularly. So jumping into projects, walkable phase 2, our total project cost, you can see was ended up to be 1.67 million with the design and inspection costs. Let's see. We ended up with a $1.33 million construction budget. Up to this point, most of the work has been on the north side of the bridge. We've spent $469,400. Roughly 35% of the project is completed. We started with a field change payment, contingency funding of 5% at $53,000. And up to this point, we've had some pluses and minuses. We're only about $1,000 into that contingency. We have a remaining, heading to the remaining 65% of the project at $52,000. Most of the work, like I said, on the north side is completed and paid to the contractor.
Can I just say one thing? I think what you guys are doing with putting the cones out to try to train people to stay in that right lane to go straight, it seems to be helping. I've only seen a few people try to go straight in the other lane, so I think it really does make a difference. I saw Ivan out there moving things around today, so, I think that was a good idea.
Yeah, we didn't, West State Street, we put out that flashing sign for almost a week prior,
Mhm.
it's a big change. And this one, we didn't anticipate so many people, having trouble with the compliance, like with the being conditioned one way. And the police department helped us out that one day, but they were pulling over every other car and giving them a warning. But so we shut down that lane, and then now we're kind of stepping into the transition and changing kind of people's thinking over there.
Right.
Here's our funding sources. We bonded for, I want to say 1.43 million. We reimbursed for 67,000 from DOT. They allow monthly reimbursement, and we'll get back 541,000 from them at the end of the project. And once the work is totally completed, we can reimburse from those other funding sources. That project is set to wrap up by June 30th, 2021. So the Stardust Ireland Pump Station project, you can see the total project cost and the breakdown between engineering services and admin services. Our remaining construction funds were, 621,000. Originally, the bid was over what we thought we needed for construction funds. So we had set some money aside, the council did, to act as a contingency funding. And right now we're actually between eliminating some things. We had some reductions in change orders and additional costs. And right now our construction budget is 646,000. So we've added 9,000 to contingency. There was a built-in contingency into the grant of 25,000. So that money is still there. We're going to have a little bit extra in professional services with our engineer since some things had to be redesigned. And then admin services, I don't think that'll go over. That's a pretty safe number, but project's under budget. Most of our utilities in, and we've shut down for the winter. That project will start again in the spring, to be completed by June or July. There's a breakdown of our grant funding there with city match. All that money is accounted for. It's in a capital fund, and we're in the process. We just took our first billing from the contractor for a total of 147 that you can see down at the bottom. And we're going to submit a reimbursement. That'll be 100% reimbursed as soon as we can work through those details with the granting agency. Fluoride Wellhouse improvement project. This project has been pushed to the spring. Kinley was a low bidder on the project. They got backed up between COVID and school projects and things like that. So we agreed with them. They held their price, their construction price. They asked us if they could start the work in the spring. We've gone through 3 change orders, but those were all reductions in the total project cost, exploring just some value engineering and their ideas to save some money based on what they bid on. And we built that contingency up to a comfortable amount. Before the change orders, it was closer to 15,000. So we built that up to 41,000. And we're comfortable with that going into construction, that we'll be able to keep that under budget. This is a 100% reimbursable project. We've only reimbursed for design. We've only gotten so we are reimbursed for this project quarterly. And there's not a lot of progress to report, but we're also in a solid place budget-wise. The Washington Street water line project. So we took out the original $1.35 million bond. When we bid the project, that bid was the number you see as the construction budget, 1.1 million. That left us with a $203,000 surplus. Now, I don't want to call it contingency because from what I understand, that's funding that we would have to ask the council to spend. We build our contingency in with a field change payment, which is 5%. Let's see. And the green number below, so our projected construction cost for phase 1 is actually going to be $38,000 under budget, and that includes some of the field change payment. So it would have been roughly $47,000 in field change payment. So we've used $9,000 of that, but that's what we're thinking is going to be owed to the contractor in the end is $1.06 million. The work is completed except for the mill and pave. And when John talked about his presentation on Lawrence and 4th and Washington Street, we verbally agreed that that money would come out of the surplus funding. So out of that 1,000, I think we're estimating that work to be about $70,000. We've been billed from Dan Long up to about 55,000. So once that work is fully billed, I think we'll probably approach the council with a resolution that transfers money from the 203,000 into the cash, allows us to spend that as part of the capital fund. And I'm working on the estimate for the other streetscape improvements that we talked about with the tree additions and the bike boulevard and perhaps signage. That would be in addition to the original $70,000 estimate and would come out of the 203,000. I'm expecting that to be no more than $30,000 for all that work.
So Bob, can I ask you a question, please?
Yeah, sure.
So we are still waiting on when you say the mill and pave goes from where to where? So is North 4th Street getting mill and paved as well?
Yes.
Can you give us kind of the start and ending points? Because I've certainly gotten a lot of calls, and I keep saying, well, to my, North 4th is going to get mill and paved, and then Washington down to 10th Street. Well, that's phase 1. And then can you tell us a little bit about that?
Or we'll mill and pave from Sullivan Street on North 4th Street. We'll include any kind of disturbance. The water line is in the middle of the road there, so we'll go into the intersection as much as we have to, depending on how that pavement is, and we'll mill and pave all the way down past the steps where those intersection improvements are. So that'll be smooth. We'll put down new tape. So all past Lawrence Street, we'll mill and pave down.
So you're not going to go all the way down to the end of that street, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then from that intersection, so all of those improvements, $70,000, that was for those upgrades to that intersection, right?
Right.
Okay.
The curbing, the sidewalk work, the tree work, seed, and so on and so forth.
Okay. All right.
So, I have a slide on phase 2 and the construction budget, which we already have a bid on. And this is work on Washington Street from 10th to 15th, which includes a mill and pave, is $789,000, which makes for, if you jump down to the bottom, total project cost of $1.95 million. We're working with EFC, our granting agency. We don't have a financial closure with them, is what they call it, meaning they have all the information from the city that allows us to do reimbursement. We have obviously the $1.35 million that we bonded, which will pay for phase 1. The grant will pay for all of phase 2. And what we're waiting on is an updated design report. I've been working with Hunt engineers on that. They did the original grant application. We have to update the seeker to cover the additional project scope. So the original project scope just covers Washington Street from 4th Street to 15th Street. So what we're going to do is just pass a whole new seeker at a council meeting coming up here soon, perhaps as early as next week. We'll just cover the full scope, and it'll still be a type 2. Some of it's a historic district. SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, requires they do a little bit of investigation, and they send us a letter that says it has no effect on the historic district. And we're kind of waiting on that, and they're having struggles with delays due to COVID. So I'm hoping that won't hold the project up, because our contractor wants to start in March, and we've asked them to pencil us in to come in and do those last 5 blocks, and then they can mill and pave the whole street. And we're hoping that we'll be one of the first projects, on the paving schedule that opens in May, and hope that project will be wrapped up in June. So the other thing that we'll have to pass a resolution for, and then the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about funding, but we have to pass a bond resolution. The granting agency has asked for that. And when we originally applied for this grant, we passed the bond resolution, but it was for the 1.35 million. All they want is a resolution that says that we're willing to fund the 1.947 million cost. We don't actually have to ban or borrow for that. They just want to show our commitment to the project. So we'll have that all to you all at the same time. And like I said, these are the 3 items they're waiting for. And then they'll start processing our grant closure. And we've already done, $1.1 million worth of work. All that money can be reimbursed for as soon as we close on the grant.
Yeah, this is great information. So after it's all said and done, we'll have paid, so the city will have contributed $1 million. So it's essentially 50-50, right? This is a $2 million project. We'll get reimbursed 911, and we'll have put in a $1 million.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, the bottom number and the 911 are really the 2 big numbers.
Okay.
That we're looking for. Okay.
Hey, Bob, before you go on, you said that phase 2 will start in March.
Yeah, JD Northrop is the contractor. They want to come in and just knock it out. It's 5 more blocks, and they've verbally committed to the project. If the council, needs to have any additional information, I guess let me know, because these resolutions will start coming up, and I think, that'll be your commitment to phase 2 of the project. I feel confident that this grant will close with that information. And we still have some time until construction starts. We're not 100% guaranteed we have to do the project starting in March in case something comes up. But we've had multiple meetings on this and feel comfortable we have a path forward.
I guess one request that I would put in to the mayor or to you is to work with Fred to get an update, really as it relates to all of these various projects. What is outstanding in bans currently? Usually we try to have that discussion, I think, once a year or a couple times a year. What needs to be turned into a bond? What do we have currently in bans? So it sounds, I believe we have a ban on that 1.3 million. But just if we could get an update on that, that would be helpful.
If I can interject here. Yes, John, we are working on, right now, Fred is working on, and it'll probably be our first work session in January. We will upgrade everybody. We've got a couple of short weeks coming up here. So we just have next week, and so it'll be the right around our first work session in January. Fred will have all the numbers and all that. We'll have projections and all the numbers for you.
Thanks, Bill.
Next project is the square entrance project. I want to say May last year, you all allotted $125,000 for the project. We had a design and a spec in place in anticipation to start the project. Just so you know, like, I bid this project out 2 times. It took a lot of lobbying to get the right contractors to bid on the project. And we were really lucky to get Dan Long, who does really great work. And I was able to get our R.E. Kelly, the masonry company that's working on the Manny Hanny building, over and do the brickwork that was over there. And then, local Western New York Glass and Door did the door replacement over there. My father did the inspection services, and we billed that to the capital project budget. So currently our sum of the cost is $121,000. We have about $3,900 in contingency, but I think through some of the change orders that we had, that money's likely to be exhausted. The complication, the project was really complicated, you know, not to get into it too in depth, but there was a lot of salt and water damage there, even more than we expected in the first place. There are portions of the basement that are actually outside over that ramp. Had to have Jason Billings fabricate some stay-in-place forms. We had a $4,000 change order on that because there was a part of the ceiling that was completely crumbled over top of the boiler room that we had to fix. But it gave us the opportunity when we had that open to pull out some old boiler equipment and clean up that room down there. And then because of those change orders, we also had to build a curb in order to fit in the new brick. It had to sit on something flat. So when we poured the ramp, we poured a curb at the same time so that there really wasn't any way for salt or water to get into those cracks, and we didn't have to seal them. So everything is kind of, it was a monolithic pour and everything is kind of like pulled together. So water really can't get in there. There's no shade, there's no sunlight on that side of the building, and that's a big reason we've had so many issues. So we did have to make a sacrifice, even though I will say that we're under budget. This project's been, you know, kind of a labor of love. It's, we're gonna need, we hooked up, so we had an alternate for hot water tubing in that concrete because we didn't want to really use salt there. We had to make a last minute decision to put the tubes in. We had funding to put the tubes in. It cost about $5,000, but it would have been roughly $16,000 to have all that work hooked up into the boiler. And we couldn't afford it with the funding that we had. So even though, you know, technically we are, you know, we didn't have the funds to do that work. We're a little over budget. We didn't spend any more money than we had. You know, we have options to do that work with upcoming budgeted funds, or we can try and do the best we can to get it hooked up in-house, at least the electric work, and maybe pay a plumber to hook that into our boiler. So that's where we're at with it, but I'm really happy with how the project turned out. Unfortunately, we don't have council meetings, and so you guys aren't here to see it, but.
Oh, it looks great. They did a great job.
Yeah, it turned out nice. So the mayor was alluding to this earlier, and so is John. So we have these 3 projects upcoming to go along with the Washington Street ban. We need to re-ban that, but these projects that are in construction in 2021 that we need funding for because we're going to have significant billings coming up with the first 2 in construction coming up here in 2021. These will both be bid in the winter, and that's the walkable lane phase 3 project on East State Street. And we've talked about this a number of times. Our total city matching funds are $165,000, and you know, we're recommending that, you know, we borrow for the entire cost of this project and the entire cost of the North Union Street project, because that's DRI funding, and we're anticipating some time before we get fully reimbursed for that. We've also talked a couple of months ago about the South Union Street project. I have some additional slides on that. What I'm proposing at this time, that's a 2022 construction project. These projects take about 18 months from start to finish, which means we need to start the design phase of the project. And I guess what we're asking is, we don't think that borrowing for this project is really the best idea, just because of all the ramifications of borrowing for a project and then needing to have like a full seeker at this point. We want to take our time with that stuff. And we want to have a design and an estimate in place that's really meaningful. But, you know, I'll show you the estimate in a little bit. I think we can get this project done with minimal city commitment. I'm really excited about it. But for now, I guess we would ask the council to commit to $150,000 of design costs. The city would design the remainder of the project. A project like this may have a $300,000 or $350,000 design fee and a very similar inspection fee. We're going to try do our best to convince the state that the city can design and inspect this. Based on my experience with working with DOT, but we just need to kind of get started with it and show them a design report for the project. But the South Union Street project would go from South Street all the way to the bridge with minimal amount of city commitment, or when we get a meaningful design and estimate in place, we can always put out alternates or we can reduce it so that we're only spending grant funding. We have 1.4 million in GRI funding for the project.
Hey, Bob, when you talk about the inspection, what is some of the lessons learned, I guess, coming out of previous, it sounds to me like you're trying to keep inspection in-house this time around compared to other streetscape projects. Is that true for Walkable Phase 3 for East State as well? Is that something that you're talking inspection in-house, or would we go with an external firm?
No, and that project has federal funding. So unfortunately, they have a very complicated, large manual on how their projects have to go. And they require that inspectors are level 4 certified, DOT certified. So for that project, we're going to be paying inspection costs. But, the East State Street project is 2.05 million, and it's about 3/4 as long as the South Union Street project. And we can do the South Union Street project for cheaper with us doing some of the design and us doing the inspection. That's how much it costs. And you'll see on the next slide. I just jumped to another project, but it'll kind of make my point. The Pedestrian Safety Action Plan, Section Improvement Project, that this has been about a 2-year project just because of when we were awarded the grant to when the construction season fell. This design is all in place and ready to go to bid. It's 100% funded, but we were awarded $330,000 and our construction funds are $197,000. So you can see that a huge amount of that is going to design and inspection, and that's a requirement of these grants. I mean, it's free money, but you can just see that these paying a private firm is very expensive, and I think the quality control of it is we can control the quality control better with our own city forces, in my opinion. Project locations are there below. East State Street and Front and Roland Avenue are both bid alternates. There's, the RFB at Main and Center Street and the RFB at the trail crossing at Constitution are in the base bid, and we're confident that that'll get funded. And then the Washington West crossing, and then one at North Union Street and First Street is another unsignalized intersection improvement project.
Good.
Where is the West State Street? West State 7th Street. Is that not under this?
Yeah, I really don't have an update for that project. I just jumped to the last another slide and.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that part of the West State DRI?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably 2023.
Okay.
We're a consultant until 2 years from now. Just with the way that we had to phase in all the DRI projects because we had 5 of them.
All right. Sorry. Thanks.
So another project that I'll get into more detail at a later date, but I want you to be aware that we're working on it and hoping to talk about it during budget time is the Kingsbrook Creek Bed Realignment. This is between Kingsbrook is between Seneca Street and Brook Street. The culvert that runs by like Hi-Ho in that area. A lot of erosion control issues with the ditch. We try and tackle a project like this every year or two. And there's times where the creek bed is just overflowing the banks and finding a new way. It's really eroding away people's properties. There's a couple of properties that are very close to the bank and it's threatening their houses. So something that has this much of an impact on our community, the city will come in and do a major project like this. I've talked to Mark Burr of the county. He's the director of engineering for the county, and they have hundreds of culverts on their county roads. And, you know, he talked about the city being responsible, or any municipality being responsible for about 50 feet from the edge of the road. And we did some work over there within 50 feet of the edge of the road, and it really didn't fix the problem. If you can picture the area, if you go downstream, the DEC put in a concrete channel through that area. Because it's so close to properties, over time it would have started to spread out, especially where it turns, and it would have threatened, you know, those properties. So we're not gonna do a concrete channel. We're just gonna realign it so it's straight. And you know, the trees are being undermined up there, so we're gonna do some maintenance work. At least that's what we're gonna propose. We're gonna take a permanent easement and put some riprap up and erosion control work. But I've got that project in engineering. They're just completing the survey, and then we'll start talking to the new city attorney about easements and trying to fund the project.
Is that most likely going to be funded internally, or is there DEC grants, or I don't know, some sort of environmental grants that would help us with that?
I don't know. I mean, Bill asked me that question, and you know, I'd call into the DEC to ask them if they'll help. I don't know, or my guess is they won't, but you know, we'll certainly try.
Right. Bob, when we did the culvert over on Genesee Street, I know the county, they had equipment that we used. Is that a possibility that if we got into that phase of it, that they would be able to help us?
Yeah, I think definitely we'll do whatever we can to keep it the lowest cost possible. You know, we still not 100% sure what we're up against. Like a full survey, but yeah, we'll explore those options before we bring it to you another time.
Okay.
Good. So the Oak Hill Park project, I know that, you know, we need to get together as a planning team. So Plywood Studios, they're working for Olean Theater Workshop. They're going to start working in winter of 2021. So we might want to follow that same timeline so that we can, again, it being a historic district, a national historic place, there's a lot of implications with seeker and SHPO. So we really need to finalize that scope and budget and get together. But there's not a lot of progress on the project since last time that we talked. Again, the South Union Street project. So this project estimate is actually closer to 1.95 million. The way that I'm looking at it right now is 1.4 million in downtown revitalization initiative funds, 200,000 out of sewer, and then this isn't quite right. Some of this would be the design funds as well, and then you'll see in the estimate that there's a contingency built in, and you know, we can work with really any number to try and kind of get where we need. But our next steps are to hire a consultant. You know, if you all are willing to fund that design. So their survey has just been completed in-house, and then we'll submit a report to the state, and we'll get answers on whether we can do the inspection, whether they like the design, and you know, what capabilities there are for the project. There's, again, West State Street, there's no real work to report. The gist of the project for South Union Street, and I actually have, I'm going to pull up some of the concept design that I have in place. To the left is the State and Union Street intersection, and then, you know, Lincoln Park in the middle area. In Park North, that's going to be the start of a 10-foot wide side path project, the State Street project that we have going down to Berry Street and meeting Wharfettes Park, which will hopefully eventually tie into the Front Street project, and we'll put a side path there. That'll tie into Walkable Land Phase 2, which will tie into Walkable Land Phase 1, and that'll build our downtown loop. We think it's important to connect this down to Lincoln Park, connect this down to our Green Street neighborhoods, our Irving Street neighborhoods, and Seneca Heights. You know, a fully shared use path, recreational trail, comfortable enough for kids to be riding on it. As you can see, if I zoom in, what I did is that, I designed a median through here. I put in as many trees as I possibly could. There's a huge right of way through here. There's a ton of room. I moved the curb in and I built 10 or 12 foot wide sidewalk where I could. And, when you ride down this trail, I imagine it is feeling like you're riding down like the middle of a park. And if you look at the street now, it's just this huge wide monstrosity of the street. And it doesn't need to be that wide. We have to pave that. We have to salt that. We have to plow it. And even though we talk about the maintenance in North Union Street, it's far less than what we pay. And you've seen the budget numbers for salt and things and overtime now, like literally, it's far less maintenance to eliminate as much pavement as we possibly can, and build this path that could be part of the Allegheny River Valley Trail. So here it is going south with the median, a regular intersection at Henley Street. So at the Irving and South Union Street intersection, there was a fatality at one point crossing this intersection. I'm recommending that we put an RFB there, an RRFB, the flashing beacons like we have downtown. Right now in concept, there's a potential to have a roundabout at Green and South Union Street. Again, if you've ever walked or driven down this street, speed's a major issue. It's 35-mile-an-hour road. People just kind of came off the highway, and around in the gateway is just going to change minds. I think it's going to look great. It's going to help Reeds look great, and I've talked to them, and they're on board with the project as long as we can get them some parking out in front. They've been really receptive to it. I've helped redesign their entrance into Reeds and adding some trees in there. But I really think this is the way to go to slow people down for the whole length of this project. Be quieter and safer, and anybody who's that trail, that path, will have a better experience. And then
I completely agree with that all, Bob, by the way. I think that intersection it's very heavily pedestrian trafficked. And the Green Street traffic coming to and from is significantly less than the north-south traffic. And I think a roundabout just makes a ton of sense there as opposed to a light. You can sit at that light waiting to turn left onto South Union Street for 5 or 6 minutes. And with a roundabout, it just makes a ton of sense. And the amount of people from all over there that are walking to Reeds, from Green Street or from Seneca Heights or wherever, not to mention heading to the farmer's market. This is such a slam dunk easy, yes, for me, 100%.
I think it would make it much easier and safer for kids going to walk to Franchot. I just think it would make it safer. They could ride their bikes, and it would really, improve the quality of life over there.
Yep,
I
absolutely.
think it'd make a big impact.
I like the idea. I've always liked the idea of a roundabout at Green Street. Aside from my little joke about drug dealers, or like the old Polish joke where they don't sell drugs on a corner if there's no corners. But if you put that in, I do have a feeling though that a lot of people down there are going to do what a lot of people do at like the Sullivan Street roundabout, where they just kind of there's a crosswalk back off where the corner used to be. And I have a feeling you're going to see them crossing 10 feet closer to the roundabout than where the actual marked crossing will be. I've seen that happen a lot by Rite Aid and the Chamber. And then to get to my next question, though, is when you get to the South Union Street bridge, if you want to move to that slide, there's going to be not much of a change that will allow for, because they get a lot of deliveries down there between A1 and Union Sales, and even the Kellner and I don't know how many deliveries they get over at Al Lemons, but I just want to make sure we're still accommodating for those folks too.
Yeah, it's a good point. I certainly thought of them when designing this. Both sides of the street under this design, will have an 8-foot wide sidewalk, which is wide enough, for bikes and pedestrians. But I left the same traffic pattern for this first few hundred feet because I know these businesses, sometimes they park right out in the median, and and unload their trucks, or there's a lot of room here to turn around. There'd be room for vehicles to do U-turns. Maybe this median needs to be shifted a little bit, but I did want to fit in some median for traffic calming and beautification purposes along this area. I have not met with them directly, but I don't see any reason why we can't just, I don't even show replacing their aprons up here. It's flat. We can put in a sidewalk. They're going to have to live with the fact that we got to designate a sidewalk through there because they've just paved over top of the sidewalk over the years.
Yeah.
We need a path for pedestrians.
Kind of like Reed's Food Barn.
We don't have to take up space. We're not going to encroach on the right of way at all.
Gotcha. I know parking's an issue for, I was there yesterday actually over at the Union Sales Building, and a guy was coming southbound with a truck, and they told him he had to actually go up to the VFW to turn around so that he could get the proper swing to back in to their property. So to unload the truck. So it's just one of those things that that's why it's readily in my mind, and I thought about it. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'll certainly meet with them if, we move forward with the design on that. And then I'm proposing that we when we get to Franchot Boulevard and the entrance to Franchot Park, that we just pave this 24 feet wide, and then we just strike the bike and pedestrian lane through here, and that'll tie in the trail around Franchot Park. This is in dire need of being paved, and I think we just need to come in with their paver and throw it down and, and pave over top of this, and this would be an additional $20,000 as opposed to trying to pay a contractor to do it. And then I'm proposing a flashing beacon bridge as well. There's not a lot of crossings here, but when you do try and cross, it's next to impossible. Even though this is only a 20-foot crossing or 24-foot crossing, you stand there for like 10 or 12 cars. They just don't stop because of the speeds. And I think that's a great reminder that right here is where you're getting into our downtown. This is where you want to slow down, and then you get to the roundabout. I think it's an important part of the design, but it can always be pulled back if funding doesn't allow.
So,
Bob,
I would like to just commend you, first of all, for putting the commitment to shared use paths. I will continue to talk about the need for bikeability and family-friendly modes of transportation in this city. I love the idea that that we're all working towards connecting our park spaces, creating whether it's bike boulevards or safe ways for people to get from downtown to Franchot Park. I mean, I think this is a part of a bigger strategic vision for our city that will attract young families, to come and live in our city. And so 10-foot sidewalks or shared use paths or whatever. I would just like to see a safe transition, because I see down the one side of the road, it would be the east side, is where you have the path. What's the safe transition to cross East State Street then on your bikes with your family to get to Franchot Park? And I mean, I know you don't have all the concepts right now. Maybe it is that beacon that you say you go up to the corner there, you press the beacon, and then you can cross on that last line you showed. Maybe that's the way you get from one side of the street to the other side of the street safely, so you can go with your family to the park. But kudos on the vision, because that's what the city needs.
And John, to your point, the bigger picture, I think when we're talking about those bike boulevards like Washington Street, I think West Henley is a candidate for the next round of that, in terms of making a connected loop to the trail. I think that would be a good fit.
Absolutely, great point.
I think, to just chime in, I think the work we're doing at Main and Front, I can see Front Street fitting into the bike lanes also. You're going to be coming from, and a lot of people walk in our neighborhood, but they like going down Front Street. They walk to football games when we have them. And then you're right uptown, and it takes you to link to Warvets Park, to the rec center, to the stadium. So I think the whole concept of, as John just pointed out, connecting a park system is a win-win for everybody. Good job.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and we can tie it in with some exciting concepts that you'll see starting to develop on the North Union Street project with wayfinding and some logo development, and start branding ourselves once we have the infrastructure and we sell ourselves. And this downtown loop, you really got to cross Delaware Avenue and Gilmore Avenue. You're not crossing any major roads to have rec trail, and a lot of studies have shown people who are riding their bikes places and just to be there, just for placemaking, they're going to be spending money and they're going to be using our businesses and get people out. So this is the estimate that I have put together. I think pretty well ahead of the 30% plan. Like I said, it's 1.93 million. We'll get that dialed in before we bring it to you again. It includes only $150,000 in soft costs. Well, not counting the bond council, but we've accounted for everything budget-wise for the project up to this point, and we're at a 20% contingency. So that'll come down as we get dialed in, and we'll see if we can, use the sewer fund to pay for the storm sewer improvements and get the project built. I just wanted to bring up Sidewalk Capital Fund really quick. So the Sidewalk Rebate Program, this year we had 33 participants. We've spent 22.3 out of the 25,000 that was allotted to the council, and we had an additional 27,342 in community investment. So greater than 50% investment from property owners. So that was great. We're awaiting. We have about $14,000 in outstanding bills. So the city has spent $36,000 on the project. So the state of that capital project, we're waiting people that we've invoiced, and a lot of, last year we had to put a couple people on for taxes. They didn't pay, so we put it on their taxes, and that's how we ended up getting the money. So sometimes there's a delay in that money coming in. That's why that capital fund goes negative. Sometimes that's just the way this program works. We talked about having people pay up front, but I think people like using our contractor because they don't have to pay up front.
That's true.
I think this is incredible, and I mean this is part of the vision that we all shared in, if we put a little skin in the game, people will step up and invest in their property and that they probably otherwise wouldn't. So we kick in 23,000 and we're getting almost $50,000 worth of improvements in our sidewalks. So that's awesome. But I do have a question, Bob. So you said we've got about 14,000 outstanding. Do you recall, and this is something that I would be interested in tracking, like the way we track bad debt. So out of that 14,000, you can put it on people's taxes, but it's my understanding that the county, that we could put that on people's taxes, but the county doesn't enforce it. Like out of last year, did we go that route? And we now, how much money
was reimbursed by the county? I was going to echo that point right after you, John.
Yeah. So how much actually does get collected and reimbursed to us? Or do we end up having to write it off? And if we end up having to write it off, then we should shift our mindset to prepay rather than doing waiting on them to pay us.
Because that's why that's negative for a while.
That's outside my department, but
I mean, maybe that's something, Bill, could we discuss?
Yeah, we can get that would be Lenz and Fred and the city attorney to discuss that matter.
All right. So perhaps during our bigger finance discussion, maybe in January, we could get that on the agenda.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I was going to say that is like I feel like that is one of our, like, the water bills and our taxes, the only things the county typically gets us back on, and I feel like that is one of the biggest, like, we have a great business model because we essentially don't really have bad debt. We don't lose money. We don't have to like chase down people to collect it because it goes on their taxes and usually it gets reimbursed. except for these finite items like lawn mowing and snow shoveling and sidewalk repairs, anything the city, the tree removal, like things like that. If we have to do stuff like that, a lot of times the county doesn't reimburse us. I want to say it's probably a greater percentage, and I'd love to see those numbers, but I think that's probably one of the biggest things that we probably should address just going forward to just safeguard the city like we do with water bills and everything else. So.
I'm just about wrapping up. I want to get to the airport real quick, but just some projects that I don't want to fall off the radar. So the siphon project, we've applied for grants. Unfortunately, this year grants really dried up. So South Olean siphon sewer master plan is really our next inline project. And, you know, the DEC comments on our progress on the master plan every year. You know, I think they're going to let us slide because of COVID, and we can wait until some grant funding comes available again. But that project is, we have a design report in place, and I think we'll find a successful grant at some point. And then, like I said, the Front Street reconstruction project, we are thinking about it. Our engineering team is taking on a lot right now. So I've got an ongoing survey of the project. You know, we've got so many projects in construction and in design that we're thinking about it, but you know, I really just want to know how much that's going to cost so we can think about funding it at some point. You know, whether we do the side path or not, that road is going to deteriorate quickly at some point, and it already is in poor shape.
It is. I can attest to that. And, you know, we were talking one day, we were over there checking out the project, and it's one of the busiest streets in town. And I think the way that we've set up that intersection has slowed down some of the traffic. But when you start back at East State and Front, people just fly, you know, they stop at Seneca and then they just fly the whole length of it past Prospect, School Street, Second Avenue, First Avenue, and then they have to slow down for the intersection. So it is a busy street, and it's kind of, it's going to be a challenge.
You know, Sunline will help, and you know, we'll do curb and gutter through there. That'll kind of define the edge line, and then, you know, the simple side path design, we can pave it, and it won't cost that much more than say a 5-foot concrete sidewalk will. And then, you know, trees and lighted bollards, you know, a simple streetscape design through there should slow people down a little bit, you know, but also the pedestrian activity it'll feel more like a community road than it is now. So that's going to be our vision. You know, and
good.
Well, I'd like to bring up something though, because I mean, we keep dividing the city walkable Olean into all these different phases and things like that. But the one thing we don't really talk about or address is the thought about like where truck traffic goes. I know a lot of times, like when we have semis driving down, we had this issue like a year ago. We had semis driving through North Union Street, and we were like, well, they should just go around. I mean, they can handle the roundabouts, but we really don't want truck traffic downtown. And I don't think we've ever had this official discussion about where we intend to send trucks. And a lot of trucks go down Front Street, which is why they've really been beaten to hell. And
that's true.
And I think that we need to address that, because Front Street also is like a non-truck lane. It's kind of like Henley Street. It's not for trucks. I believe it's even in the code. A candidate for alderman pointed that up to me, you know what I mean, for Ward 1. And it's just one of those things, it's just always in my head. So, I mean, we really should have this discussion because it's on the table and we're talking about all these other things.
Mm-hmm. You know what happened, Kevin, too, is when we were doing the construction uptown, a lot of these truckers got into the habit of using Front Street and then turning up Seneca so they didn't have to go under the underpass. And a lot of them still do that. So yeah. I think it's just retraining them. But you're right. I think we have to have a citywide truck route discussion.
Yeah. I mean, especially because if you look at it, we're raising the height of that bridge so that trucks can drive under it. But if it's true that it's in the code that it's a non-truck route, then why are we raising a bridge for trucks to drive under something that's not a truck route? It's one of those like.
Well, Kevin, it sounds like you're volunteering to lead that discussion in the new year.
Yeah, I'm down.
Because I think you're right. I mean, I agree. I agree 100% with you. You know, there are, and sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. You know, I mean, this is something probably each one of us has a street or two that semis use, right, wrong, or indifferent. And, 12th Street is one that.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say 12th, like.
And so, yeah, I think it would be valid to get a map up there, draw out what is the acceptable current routes, and then, what is best practice? I don't know, is it as good as it should be right now? Is there a better solution? So no, I think you should,
Yeah, because I mean, every constituent doesn't want a truck route on their street. And so like, and in every street we try to redesign as a community route with bike lanes and not really designed for truck traffic. And then by the time you're over with it, like trucks just kind of circle the city and they can't go to factories. They can't go to distribution sites like Home Depot, Union Sales, Reed's Food Bar needs food, parking shops, all these different places. And it's like, well, we've got to kind of accommodate some, we got to give a little bit here and there. I don't know.
Right. Well, another problem is when they come off of 16 to get to, say, Berry Street to deliver to Big Lots and the dollar store,
Meals on Wheels.
Yeah, well, that too. But the mall, they're getting very creative how they come off 16, they go on the Main Street Bridge because it's a straight shot. Now that's going to change once we get that project completed, but you can see how clever they're trying to get. And some of them are doing a good job, but others are in places they really shouldn't be. So I totally agree, Kevin. I think it's something we have to get serious about looking into.
When you're doing that study, Kevin, I get truck complaints too all the time that people are complaining that trucks are using North Union Street to go down to Seoul Epoxy and to go on through the Homer Hill area. And so I think that street needs to be looked at too, how we can divert trucks to get to Homer Hill and so forth.
Yeah. Hey, Bob, we got a project in January.
I mean, it's changed a lot. I mean, there's so much online shopping. If you buy a washer and dryer, they bring a 57-foot tractor trailer to your front door and they drive on our roads and it's not good.
Right.
Roads at all, but so I know we had this discussion. It was very unpopular a couple of years ago. In the car to try and control where trucks went, and we kind of backtracked on it. But yeah, street underpass is going to be a big part of diverting some of the traffic that goes east only and down that way and make multiple truck routes perhaps. But we'll design Front Street so it can handle truck traffic more than likely. I sent you the facility needs report today, so take a quick look at that. Updated projects. Some of it has to do with the hazard mitigation plan that's next on our agenda. We got to have a meaningful discussion, I think, about the city garage replacement. And I have some pictures in there and some updated data and information. The last project that this is, for concept, Wayne Street, Allegheny River Valley Trail Connector, TAP funding, transportation alternative funding comes out from the state typically every 2 years. And a lot of times their funding is somewhere between 700 or 800,000. And there's a 20% city commitment. So I feel like a project that we could pair with the school on, and maybe they would even consider some matching funds. We would go from Country Fair and connect the Allegheny River Valley Trail from there to the railroad tracks. And then, you take the railroad along the middle school property to Whitney Ave and tie into downtown. And you basically expand the Allegheny River Valley Trail through there. If you go on their website, that's where they show their concept of that project being expanded. But one that's
I got a question regarding the city garage. I didn't have a chance to read your full report because it was so long, but you were talking about possibly replacing the fuel pumps underground. They haven't been replaced since 1986. Yeah. I don't know the answer to this. Just a quick question. Would it be more feasible to disconnect those fuel pumps and use WEX cards and go to the gas stations to get our fuel for our city vehicles?
I think that's been talked about before. Do you get a tax adjustment on there? You get, tax-free gas costs for there. I know some multiple options have been talked about. And typically in our fleet committee, we talk about that. But
yeah, we had talked about disconnecting it a few years ago and having a shared service with the county, because they have the gas just down.
Sub Street. Yeah.
Right, yeah. That was one of the ideas.
I would almost be in one of those discussions just because I don't know. I don't know. I've always been against like removing the city garage from where it's located at, just because of cost and things like that. And maybe in 20 years it gets moved, but I just don't, with the new water and sewer plants and think, you know what I mean? You start upgrading all these other facilities. That's the last one, but it took 20, 40 years before we replaced the sewer plant. So I don't know if you do that today, given that we just finished, the sewer, and find some shared service to kind of bide our time a little bit, another decade or so we can find a good plan for that. Especially with the mall is a big piece of real estate that who knows what that's going on with that, like we don't need more big empty spaces uptown.
True.
I've got a quick question, Bob. What did ARVT stand for?
Allegheny River Valley Trail.
Thanks.
But there's a lot of information out there on the city garage and potential with developers at brownfields and other things. So I think we got to get into a more meaningful discussion if, Bill and Carrie and I can get organized on it and come up with some thoughts. I did want to get into the airport briefly. And again, this may warrant a secondary discussion, but, I wanted you all to be aware that it's not that we don't have a plan there. We do have a plan. We're trying to operate it at, with the least possible costs. From 2019-20 budget, which was $250,000 or $251,000 operating budget, we reduced that to $217,000 in the 2020-21 budget. Just in the time that I've spent up there, things like having 400 channels on the cable up there has been reduced down to like 40, 50 channels, like the costs that weren't needed up there, we've reduced just because, it's not a huge revenue source. It is what it is, and I believe in it. But, that's why our projects, and even though our project budget has gone down, we've still been able to do projects through grant funding. We used the funding for Cattaraugus County over the course of 2 years to replace a pump that was failing in our fuel pump in the actual injection system for the unleaded gas. And then we put in a new card reader for people who come up and pay with credit card to get our fuel, which is a revenue source. We have 100% grant funded project through DOT. The forced air unit in the main hangar is 20 plus years old. We're going to replace that. We're going to replace a propane boiler, which is 30 plus years old, for no cost to the city. And those, I was trying to save up money to replace those. We were lucky enough through Joe Giglia's office to get recommended for this grant. And that's in process and should be completed sometime next spring or summer. Our next major construction project is the Runway Rehabilitation Project. That's considered a 2021 grant. And those are, we passed 3 or 4 different resolutions for these FAA type of projects because they have a pre-application and they have a grant application, and then we'll pass a seeker. And then of course we're gonna, we'll award the project or not award the project. But a little bit of breakdown on the runway rehabilitation. I have some pictures to show you of the what the runway looks like. But it's a $2.8 million project cost. It's 95% funded right off the bat. That leaves $139,000 in matching funds. But Cattaraugus County has contributed $85,000. Through the CARES Act, we have $30,000 that can be used in matching funds. So that leaves, $24,000 in city commitment for a $2.8 million project. So about a 1% commitment. We've gotten that down to through work through the mayor's office and my office.
Hey, Bob, I just have a quick question. When was the last time we replaced the fuel tank liner, or did we put a new tank in?
fuel tank liner. They're above ground tanks. We replaced those. I want to say 15 years ago or 10 years ago.
Okay,
Just a pump replacement.
I was just curious.
Yeah. And here's a couple pictures. So the reason the cost of the runway replacement is so expensive, it's by far our largest street. It's 4,800 feet long, it's 100 feet wide. You can see by the pictures the cracks that are starting to develop in the runway. And this is actually a mill and pave project, except for the picture on the left where you see that huge crack. Those are going to be full depth repairs. So some of the cracks that developed, and those are at all the cold joints. So there's probably 100 different cold joints. Maybe closer to 100, because it's about every 50 feet there's a joint where the paver had to stop and wait, for another load of pavement to go down. So there's cracks that size, and when you're going down a runway on an airplane, you feel that every 50 feet. It's a significant bump. You can see we tried to crack seal it. There's other shrinkage cracks that are developing throughout the runway. And then, this crack, which is a longitudinal crack, is more representative that the base underneath is failing. The underneath layers of the pavement are failing and need to be replaced. So there's significant need for it. And for, a city commitment of $25,000 or less, I'm recommending that, we have to commit to this project, by, soon, I guess, or at least have a verbal commitment to go forward with the pre-application and with our 5-year plan with FAA. We can take it year by year, but this would be a great project to get done. Otherwise, I need to send my crews up here twice a year, more than likely, to pothole, to fill potholes and crack seal and preventative maintenance.
Those are in better condition than half of my streets in my ward.
That's an exaggeration.
Come on down to South 5th Street. I'll take you through it.
That's brick, though.
Exactly.
They don't make runways out of brick, John. But I gotta go out. Bob, I completely support you on this one, because even if, let's say we go down the road of Alderman Crawford and we want to get rid of the airport, it's hard to maintain an airport for 20 years when your runway is shot ski. You gotta replace that, and then at least that gives you your biggest. That's, aside from hangars, that's your biggest bang for your buck. We can afford boilers and furnaces and stuff like that, but if we have FAA grant funding for the biggest thing on there, I really think that's going to help us to keep the ship floating for the time being, and then we can decide whether we want to keep or annihilate.
You're mixing up your analogy. So now we're a ship, but we're an airplane. And don't put words in my mouth, Kevin. I say make it sustainable. Shut it down or make it sustainable. So
sorry. I hear hate. So I.
Hey, Bob, I have a question. Back in, I think it was late September, maybe somewhere in October, when we voted on those resolutions there, Alderman Anastasia requested usage of some documentation on the usage of the airport. I don't recall seeing any of that in the emails as of late. Now we're back on the airport thing again. Is it possible that we could get that here before we start this massive discussion?
Yeah, definitely. We can add some information to this and kind of make it a separate. I can take you through anything that you'd like up there. My approach on the 3 years that I've been managing it, and our exploring fixed base operators, and it's not that we haven't made efforts and tried to make it sustainable. It's just like I said, I think it needs more discussion and everybody's input.
So if I can chime in a little bit, Bob, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Still can't see you.
Well, that's fine, Kevin. I'm not trying to look that good. is there a current plan for anything to be done with the old hangars? I know they've been in rough shape for many years, and I think there's a current situation with the pavement around those. Are we kind of avoiding those for now, or do we have a plan to rehab or even replace those, Bob?
Not much of a plan. I mean, I thought that, we had, in-house crews available. We would just try and go up there. There's paint issues. Whatever the paint that sticks to the tin is started to peel off, and it needs to be power washed. It needs, the base needs to be addressed, like you said, but it's going to cost a lot of money, and it's just not something that we've been willing to fund. We do get complaints here and there for people that use the hangar, but the hangar's always been full. We charge a little bit less for that hangar. Been full, and we don't want to lose those people. We don't want to, even for 2 weeks, we don't want to send all those people out to do a project. So that's been a hindrance. It's just finding the funding and having the right plan in place.
Bob, are our hangars heated?
No.
No, okay.
Are there any, whatever we got into as far as the project to put in the new hangars that are there, is there anything like that can happen in the future? I mean, that was some kind of joint venture with Alfred or something, wasn't it? That got the cost down or something?
I don't know. I mean, that was a DOT grant. I don't know all the details of the project, but we talked about adding more. But are you going to get your money back for the amount? There was talk when I came in of demoing the old T-hangar.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know they're still desirable. They're still, I think they're full, right? We always have a waiting list to get in any of our hangars.
Right.
And my dad would shoot me, but I have to say it, and I guess I would just be interested to see how it compares to other airports of our size. The rent that we collect on our hangars seems just, and this is, I don't have anything to base it on other than just, it seems to be on the low end.
We're just below break. We keep it for a reason so that we're at full capacity. Last year, I think we raised it 10%. I might be wrong on that number, but seeing it another 10% is maybe a few $1,000s in revenue, and that's not for nothing, but it's not going to solve our sustainability issues.
I mean, and it may be even possible to now granted you'd need a product like the newer hangars, but if I look at our rental rates and I think about, I mean, we're people are storing airplanes in these hangars, yet the space that's there and what they pay for rent, I don't think I could rent a storage locker in town for what we rent those at.
Yeah,
that's just my input. Like I said, my dad probably won't talk to me for a year. And when he finds out what I'm getting at, but the old hangars, I can see it. I mean, they are beat up, they suck. But I think the new ones, the rates we charge, I think they're going back a long ways. I'd like to see how they compare to other places. You've got folks that are storing airplanes. These are high priced, high end machines, and the place you store them in should collect high end rent and provide a high end product.
Right.
And to Jason's point, I mean, if we have a waiting list, and again, if we're investing money on something, and I have no idea what it costs to build a hangar, right? But does it behoove us to look at expanding our hangar services if we have a waiting list? Where it seems to me the only way you make money is if through gas, fuel sales, and hangar space. I mean, and I'm sure you've looked at that before, but I don't know, is it worth doing an evaluation on that?
Sure. We did raise rates, and this is the right time to be talking about it because you approved rates increases at budget time, so we can look at.
So something else I think is to be in there too, Bob. Because I'm close with some of the folks that work up there. My dad keeps an airplane up there. He has my whole life. And something people that, now granted, I don't think we should do it to the folks that are based out of our airport as like the courtesy, but folks that come in, businesses that come in and use that airport, as far as I know, we don't charge any landing fees, stored tie down fees. Even if we do, we don't enforce them, and they're also low. And I've heard there's a lot of people that fly in and are, you know, they're kind of put back and amazed that we don't charge those fees.
Interesting.
That's why back, like Vern said, that's why I asked for that report back in late fall or early fall. I'd like to see the revenues and expenses for that airport, because we can't make knowledgeable decisions without knowing what is actually going on up there.
Right.
So if we could have a work session just on the airport and get us the revenues and expenses up there, I think that would help all of us, so we know what the hell we're talking about. I don't know what we're
I think the flight log would be helpful to see how many, you know, where are the numbers of usage too.
Right.
Yeah, I'll put all that together, and as much as I can put together, I'm sure I can, you know, I'd like to see the last 2 years, you know, this year and last year, and compare, you know, what our loss was, you know, because I've tried to cut costs and things based on your feedback. So it'd be interesting to look at all that. Obviously, we're still going to take a loss, and there isn't any way to reverse that. And usage is positive because we sell more fuel that way, and we make a lot off the fuel. So I'll prepare those numbers and show you, you know, what our thinking is. And it's tough because there's a part-time staff up there, and I manage 14 other divisions. So, you know, we can all look at the numbers together and try and brainstorm.
Good idea.
That's all I have.
Bob, before you leave, I just wanted to touch on the central fire station, the addition that's going on in the back. Could you just give us an update on that and the cost of it?
Sure. I first submitted it to you and the facility needs report on August 17th, talking about the project. I think it was late May, we had a rainstorm. And that it's a flat roof, so there was a roof drain that was causing damage to the walls. In that particular storm, the floodgates opened in part of the damage. But what we'd found out is for years that had been dripping into the walls in the kitchen. So the firemen, you know, tore apart the wall where the cabinets are and where the refrigerator is, and we found, you know, black mold in there, and all sorts of damage to the floor and to the cabinets and to the countertop. So that was kind of how the project came about. I put it up in the facility needs report, and you know, we were going to talk about it at council one time and ask you all for funding, but it kind of just fell by the wayside. So we decided to fund it with buildings account funding. It's about a $40,000 project. It's money that we have budgeted funding for. We looked at the damage to the building as an opportunity to fix that issue, but also expand the kitchen, which is incredibly small. It's one of many issues at Central Fire that we want to address, and I know probably Chief Richardson wants to chime in a little bit. You know, we just looked at it as an improvement project, and his firefighters are doing a lot of the work in order to, I would think we're doing the project for $40,000. You know, I think that would be a $120,000 project, you know, triple the cost. You know, if we didn't have our electricians doing the electric work, the firefighters doing the framing and building and installation of the cabinets and countertops and things.
So when did the second story project get added on?
You know, I think Tim and I talked about it, and you know, there are heating issues and there are issues on the second floor where the captain's quarters are. And you know, in building, it's not that much more expensive to build. You know, it's just a little bit more in material cost to add a second floor because you're still building a roof regardless. You're just talking around the outside and the insulation and the flooring. So, we thought it'd be positive to expand on the second floor, and it fit within budget. So that was kind of part of the original, just planning of the project.
Yeah, I guess I was surprised. I had a constituent ask me what was going on, and I told him we had some roof damage, but I had no idea about the second floor. And walking by, and I was over talking to the guys this weekend, but the roof, it's like you have the flat roof and now you have a wall going straight up. So it's like, what, a 45-degree angle. Isn't that going to be future problems with roof drainage? And I know the roof is going to slant the other direction. It's kind of a slanted roof. So I was just curious. And I see some of the funding is coming from the buildings line item. It's not coming from the fire department. I guess I was just surprised that we weren't asked about the funding and we weren't told about the second story, which I guess is going to be a weight room. So I was just curious to get updated on what's going on over there. And the other question before I forget, with our guys doing the work, and I know some of them are contractors, I'm assuming they're licensed contractors, but also, do we carry the liability on them if they get hurt?
That I don't know, but pertaining to the project, I think it's bigger than it looks. I think it's, it's roughly 14 by 16 foot building. It's occupied, 24/7, 365. So, and the urgency black mold was really the reason why it kind of came together so quickly. And I apologize for not fully keeping you in the loop, but using budgeted funds. And that building's budget typically goes to the city building, but we had those two capital projects and the HVAC replacement or the control system and the Times Square project that just felt like, a dire need.
Yeah, it just, I would have liked to have known about the whole scope of it before, somebody asked me and I looked like the deer in the headlights. I was like, oh, so, but I just wanted us all to be on the same page and why we're doing it, where the money's coming from. And I guess my other big concern is the liability, especially since it's our guys doing it. Is it under their license as contractors? So if something were to happen in either one of those rooms in the future, would our insurance cover it? So those are just a couple things I thought of after being over there.
So I have a question. As far as the water damage, did we receive anything from our insurance on that?
A claim was put in and denied.
Oh.
So we did put a claim in and they said that it was due to the storm, that the roof drain was plugged, so they wouldn't cover the damage on it.
General maintenance. Bob, I'm sorry, I stepped out to go to the John, so I guess I don't know what fire station are we discussing that had this?
The Central.
Central, okay. So Central Station, like, all right, and I get that guys live there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And Bob, I applaud you for your best interests of the city, and keeping this in house and stuff like that. So, dilated pupils aside, during the headlights reference, I wanted to, I commend you for doing this. And what's a fire station without a good kitchen? Because I mean, that's all about, chili cooking. That's what I think about when I think of fire stations. But I really do think that, no, if we can continue to build on Central Station, it's built in 1976. I mean, like if we're adding to something that can be better used and we can use our guys in-house, and none of us seem to have a problem when we have DPW guys doing work for the city, and we inherit the liability on that. I'm sure our policies are immaculate. So no, I'm all for this.
Yeah, I would just like to hear back on the liability part, if that's okay.
Is that, I mean, just for clarification, are we contracting with them to do the work, or are they doing the work while they're on the job?
Yeah, you can weigh in.
Yes.
Yeah, John, what they're doing is they're doing it on duty, and when between calls and those types of stuff. The other thing that's unique is it's almost like I hate to say it, but it's almost like a training evolution too, because they use, they're up and down the ladders and those types of things. And, from a personal standpoint, the morale boost of them buying into their building, I would say it's been a tremendous boost due to the fact that they're outside working together as a team, because we've actually limited a lot of our co-mixing training because of obviously the pandemic. So it's given us another opportunity to be able to foster that teamwork, and I've seen a lot of really good improvements. Kind of the hokiness aside, but it's been a really great project, and I thank Bob for helping me with this.
Mm-hmm.
Chief, I'm glad that you chimed in on that, because like when I think of fire stations, I stereotype, and I don't like to stereotype, but like you think of like guys hanging out and fighting fires. They're like guys in the military. They should be like together, fighting all together for for the common good. And you know what I mean? Like they're there to put out fires and save lives, and they need to have that camaraderie. And you always see those TV shows where guys are coming in and they make chili together, and that's the kind of team building that we need. And like they're doing a construction project on a building that they are living in together constantly. So that's it's a good thing. So
if I can chime in, I don't think Linda's against this project. I think where she was just we weren't informed of the project, and if there's anything in the future that you guys want to do, cost saving measures, having our own in-house do it, it's great. Just keep the council informed. That's all we're asking.
Right. And I still want to know the answer to the liability. So if they're on duty, then that sort of answers the question. They'd be covered. I know when I was over there, they were in the ladder truck, they were in the bucket part, and I just don't want anyone to get hurt. I have no problem with them working together. I think it's wonderful. Listen, if you look back, I'm a very big supporter of our fire department. So that's not even part of the question. The part of the question for me was the liability and the cost, and not being told what was going on. When you have someone say, so what's going on in the second floor now? And I didn't know there was a second floor going up until I walked over there. So I just think we need to be more in the loop. That's what our job is. Our job is to oversee the budget. Our job is to, make sure we're doing things appropriately. So down the road, someone can't come back and claim some kind of liability issue and we didn't know anything about it. So I just think we wouldn't be doing our due diligence if we didn't ask the questions. And I'm all for morale. I'm all for supporting our guys. I do it 100%. I just we should have been told ahead of time. 40,000 is 40,000. And, there are projects at the other firehouse. And are we going to start seeing things going on over there and we hear about it later? So I just want to be in the loop, and I just want those questions answered. And that's our job.
Okay.
So thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else on that? Bob, are you done? Did you talk about the hazard mitigation stuff already? I mean, you talked about, you don't have something separate, do you?
No, can I send you an email? In fact, I forwarded you all an email from Kim Merrill. She's the assistant to the commissioner for Cat County DPW, and it explains the resolution we need to pass for the hazard mitigation plan. I need to dig up the plan, but we've been working with the county over the last few months, Chief Richardson and I, and so this plan pertains to hazards like tornadoes, floods, winter storms, wind storms, and we had to brainstorm and come up with a number of projects that we thought would help in that realm. Backup generators was a few of the projects. Like our city garage doesn't have a backup generator, the rec center doesn't have a backup generator, and neither does the John Ash Center, and all those are temporary housing in the event of a flood or loss of power and things like that. So it's really meant to just kind of plan for hazards. And it'll help with grant funding. I still need to clarify on who's going to be applying for these grants and how these projects could potentially be funded. But DPW applied for 5 or 6 things, and so did the fire department. Get that on maybe next week's agenda. I can update you all maybe by email to review.
So are you gonna actually send us the plan?
Yes. Yeah, I can send you the plan that shows it's countywide.
What, yes, please. So you sent us what the resolution would look like, but I guess just, what is the plan that, it would be helpful if we could review that.
Yeah, let me just fill in the gaps for you. And,
Okay.
I did a little bit of research myself on what the final product was.
Okay. Very good. Anything else for strategic planning? Okay, very good. I will make a motion to approve our committee reports. Could I get a second?
So seconded.
Seconded by Alderman Dougherty. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Could I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Witt. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
And we are adjourned.
Okay, so I'm going to jump right into public safety. There's really not too much on it tonight. Let the record show that all committee members are present. And I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 1st meeting. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Anastasia. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Okay. I don't believe we have any, excuse me, unfinished business. New referrals for consideration would be PL 79-20, Alderman Dougherty, to amend the City of Olean Code of Ordinance Section 24-135 to prohibit parking at the intersection of South 6th Street and Henley Street for a distance of 20 feet to the corner. Kevin?
So what I had going on was I had a bunch of constituents within the last year, and I've done reports with I've asked Tiffany to send it through to the fire chief, the police chief, and Bob to give me their reports on it. And then we, obviously Chief Rowley has sent people by to handle the different people, most of it has been residents located at the corner. They just moved in. They didn't know. They were taking liberties. They didn't realize they didn't have to park within 20 feet of a corner. They were blocking some of the neighbors that have been there forever. And Raleigh's guys have kind of done a good job of getting those, letting them know what's going on. I guess the problems come back 2 or 3 times in the last year since these people have moved in. And so I figured I'd bring it up and kind of just throw it to the council to see if a sign is actually necessary.
Anybody have any questions for Kevin? Kevin, have you, you said you talked to the police and the fire?
I send it to Richardson. I don't really, usually it's like if we're changing something to a one-way, I usually don't expect anything back from the fire department. But for Richardson or for Raleigh, I know usually he gets back to me about sending people to getting to 1 second, guys. Hey, Lachlan, I'll be with you in just 1 second, buddy. I'm in the middle of a meeting. Sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, we'll find little Nicky in a minute, okay? Adam Sandler just released Little Nicky to Netflix. So, yeah, no. So usually Raleigh sends his guys down. I usually get a report from him and Bob Ring.
Okay, so we're just waiting on that report.
I was waiting on those reports. Yes, I just sent this out recently. I didn't actually expect to get a meeting, get into the meeting before I got the reports back. So.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just hold.
Can I make a motion to postpone to the next committee meeting?
Sounds good.
Can I get a second?
Okay. Do we have to vote on that? I don't think we do.
Oh.
You just postpone it to what, it would be January.
Oh, then maybe it would die in committee because it's PL.
Yeah, dang.
Okay, so
So
you
I will
want to just,
reintroduce it after the first of the year.
okay, that sounds good. Is Tiffany there?
Yes.
Okay, Tiffany, do we have to do anything to do that, or we just wait and resubmit it?
No, we can just let it die.
Okay,
It's fine.
sounds good. Okay, the next one is discussion, no parking sign relocation on Laurel Avenue. I do believe this is Kevin too.
Sorry, I was shooing them away. Bye, honey. Okay, so I spoke with Tiffany. I also sent this one for a request of a report for DPW and the fire chief and the police chief. I had a constituent call me down on Laurel Avenue. He said that there's a no parking sign directly across the street from his driveway. He owns a large truck. And he has multiple people that pull in and out just because Laurel Avenue is this dead end street. So they come in, they get halfway down the block to wherever they have to go, and then they turn around in his driveway. And the sign's been hit multiple times. He's almost hit it himself, and he's just wondering if we can just relocate the sign 10 feet in one direction or the other. So obviously, I hadn't heard back from anybody either on that issue. So I don't know if you guys want to, it's a discussion, so it really doesn't die, but.
We'll just continue it into the new year. Is
Okay,
that okay?
great. Yeah, we'll put it on that agenda, so.
Sounds good.
I wonder if on those dead end streets like that, if a no through traffic sign up at the street, would help out.
So like, I know a lot of the people that are at the first half of the block of Laurel. And so like, if I go down there to visit, I'll park on the right-hand side, which is when you drive down. So if I have to turn around, nobody likes to go to the end because most of those houses usually, they don't have the best of driveways to turn around in. So I can see why people would turn around mid-block because they're not trying to drive through, they're visiting somebody else. It's one of those, it's tricky. So if I don't know, I actually haven't gone to see the sign itself to see if maybe like, hey, can we just move it to one driveway over and that would solve the issue?
Yeah.
And so.
Okay. Sounds good. So we'll move that to our first meeting in January. Approval of committee reports.
Just
Do we
a second, Linda.
Oh, sure.
Before we move on to that, I know there was an issue with resolution 95-20, the deaf child. Would that be handled tonight or is that another night?
That has to be handled during a regular meeting, so it will
Okay.
be done next Tuesday.
Okay, not a problem.
It was, to my knowledge, the work order's already been put in. So
Okay.
it's just housekeeping, just changing that wording.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
deaf child sign is still going up according to plan. We're just changing the code to reflect it.
Right. Now that's Henley and 14th, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
From PL all the way to resolution, that's North 14th.
Yeah. It said, we have to change, it said North 14th and Henley, so it has to be changed to South. So it'll be an
Oh.
amendment. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's the issue there, so.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep. And approval for committee reports. Do we have any, Tiffany?
Nope.
Okay.
I
Now,
have one item that I probably should have brought up in the last committee, but just for an FYI, you will have a resolution for next week. If you recall, we have a second electrician's assistant that was budgeted, I believe it was 2 budgets ago. So we've had this position for well over a year. And it went, paperwork went to civil service down in Little Valley. Well, they came back just a week or so ago and said that we only had one electrician's assistant. So we have to create the second electrician's assistant. It's a housekeeping, it's paperwork, so that they have it on their books that we have 2 electrician assistants. So you'll see that resolution next week.
And you said it is budgeted?
Yes, that he's been in the position for over a year and the money is budgeted. And it's just kind of, I don't know where it fell through the cracks at, but their civil service at down the Little Valley has been catching up on things, and they caught this, and we have to have it created, the position created so that they can, so it's on their books down there. So we have one city electrician, and we have two. We will now have, once the resolution goes through, we will have two electricians assistants. We only have one right now according to civil service, so we have to create that other one.
Great. Okay.
That should be a discussion item for another day. I don't know. I guess I wasn't here when we got rid of the position at the city building. But based on those town hall meetings we had over the summer, a lot of people are just uncertain about what civil service is, what they do. I know we're always fighting with them, and it'd be better if there was a position in-house. Maybe that is not something that's necessary anymore. Maybe I wasn't there when we got rid of it to know why we got rid of it, but it just always seems like it's one of our bigger headaches. Like we almost have to go into arbitration with some of these outside agencies.
Yeah. I think it was before my time. I think maybe Mayor Carucci eliminated that position. So it's been gone for a while, Kevin.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think sometimes you feel like you're standing in line because the county pretty much does the whole county. And when they took us on, you kind of get pushed to the back of the line. So it can be frustrating at times.
Yes. Shared services sometimes aren't all they're cracked up to be.
True. Okay. So the other thing I want to do is now I wanted to go into executive session. We're going to do that before we adjourn, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to go into executive session. Can I have a second?
So seconded.
That was Kevin.
Yep.
You got to state what we're going into executive session for.
To talk about legal / employee discussion.
Thank you.
And
Who
Dave, do you have a potential sale of real estate to discuss tonight?
Who?
Dave?
Dave?
Oh, I thought she said Abe. I was like, who's Abe?
I know.
Sorry.
Real estate?
Dave?
I'm sorry, I was muted. I didn't know that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. He didn't come back with me with his proposal, but I do have somebody interested in a parcel down here in North Olean, a city-owned property. And I just wanted to discuss with the council members what a fair price for the city would be before.
Okay.
So, sale of real property.
So we'll list that, real property. Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second.
I already seconded.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Give me a minute to shut things down here. I got to turn off you.
Yeah, everybody in favor?
Aye.
I just want to follow the rules.
Anyone opposed? Okay, carried. So we'll just give Bill a couple minutes to shut us down. Nobody else has a video going or anything? I'm assuming.
Hang on a minute here. Let me, I want to pause. So
Yep.
we are now back on recording.
Okay, so this is public safety. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Can I have a second?
Second.
Vern,
Vernon.
all in favor?
There you go.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Hey, everybody, plan on, give us some thought to what we're going to do for the reorganizational meeting on January 4th. We can discuss it next Tuesday. Okay.
Pizza
Okay,
party?
sounds good. Take care.
Bye-bye,
Okay.
everyone.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Have a good night.
You too.